I have tried to make this video about 5 times and I have been struggling with how to start it. So I have really been wanting to share our story with the camera and with you guys for the last couple of weeks, but I just haven't really known how to get the words out. So I am Stephanie, my husband Jesse, and we are parents of Darcy, and we created the Darcy Project in memory of our daughter. Her 9th birthday is this weekend, and we are, we get really sad around this time of year, but we also get happy because it's a very weird feeling for a lost parent. And if anyone else has felt this, please let me know in the comments. But you're excited because there's a birthday to celebrate, but at the same time, you're extremely sad because they're not here to celebrate it. So we have a couple things planned for her birthday. We usually do a couple things around it, but I thought maybe in honor of her birthday this weekend, I would share our story from the very beginning and what our experience was like with loss. So in September of 2016, we found out we were expecting, and I think at about 5 weeks, I found out that I miscarried, and that was my first experience with loss, and didn't really understand what that meant, why that happened. I had 3 previous pregnancies, totally healthy, no hiccups or anything, except for the occasional morning sickness or Braxton Hicks contractions. So having that type of loss, was very devastating, even at only 5 weeks. Fast forward to December of 2016, we found out we were pregnant with Darcy, and I think it was just around Christmas time, but we were, the dog's trying to say hi. Charlie! We were pretty apprehensive to tell people because we had just miscarried a few months before, so we really weren't telling anybody. I think my husband and I knew, and then we told like a close friend of mine just in case something else happened and we needed to, have someone come over and help with the kids. So we found out in December of 2016, and I really did not feel well the entire length of the pregnancy, from beginning and then up until I delivered her at 21 weeks. My body, that whole pregnancy, felt like I was running a marathon. Like I could feel my pulse in my body the whole pregnancy, and I didn't know why. I was going for my regular checkups. I was taking my prenatal vitamins. I was, exercising to some extent. We had already had 3 kids at home, and, we're keeping very busy. So at about 11 weeks, I started spotting and started really bleeding heavily, and I thought, this is another miscarriage at 11 weeks. Went to the doctor, they checked everything, and they said everything was okay. There was just some type of bleed, but there was still a heartbeat. Baby was doing fine. Mom was doing fine, so they just had to take it easy and it should heal on its own. Fast forwarding a couple more weeks, we got to the 19-week appointment and went in, passed with flying colors. There wasn't anything that was, surprising or jarring on the ultrasound that would make us worry for what was to come, except for the feeling that like I was running a marathon and I was super exhausted all the time. I had a little bit of like a low blood pressure, but it wasn't anything that the doctors were scared about or were worried enough to put me on any kind of bed rest. So after having the ultrasound, they said, you know what, the way that she's laying, we can't see one side of her heart, but all the other chambers look good. We'll have you come back in 2 weeks and we'll just get pictures of the other side to make sure everything's okay. So I would say maybe a week or so after that appointment, which was on March 17th, about a week after, I noticed a decrease in movement. And I mentioned that to my husband, and he's like, well, we just had, and it makes sense, we just had the ultrasound and passed with flying colors. And he's like, I think you're okay. And I'm like, well, I'm okay. I'm not spotting. I'm not feeling anything weird. Like it just was not, she wasn't quite moving as much. That was red flag number 1. And then we get to the 21-week appointment, and we go in, and I get on the ultrasound table, and usually when you are, you've had multiple children, you kind of know what to look for. You see movement and you see baby moving around. The moment that she put the monitor on my stomach, Darcy was just curled up into a ball. And I kind of knew deep down something was wrong, but I didn't say anything because I'm like, maybe that's just the position. Right after probably 3 to 5 minutes of the ultrasound tech moving the monitor, she said, "I'm so sorry, there's no heartbeat." And in that moment, I'm just like, what? Like, this is not happening. Like, can we double check? And she did it again, and she's like, "There's no heartbeat. I'm so sorry." Immediately, I started hyperventilating and crying and just sobbing because everything was fine. We did what we were supposed to do. We took our prenatal vitamins. I was, trying to do leisurely walks and stay active. Don't drink, don't smoke, none of those things. And you think, oh my gosh, this is not going to happen to me. I'm healthy. This is something that happens to other people. This does not happen to someone who's already had a bunch of babies and all of them were healthy. So getting to that point, I remember the doctor coming in and she just gave me the biggest hug. And I miss that doctor. She has moved since, but I called my husband with the doctor in the room, and he's like, "This is a joke, right?" Like we were both in denial of what was happening. I said, "This is not a joke." They offered me to go home or they offered me to go to the hospital. So I had no interest in going home, and I know some people are different and some people want to go home. I did not want to go home. I wanted to get to the hospital as fast as I could. I think mainly because I was worried. Obviously, there's nothing I could do to change like what was going on with her because she had already passed. I was getting scared for myself. And once we got to the hospital, I actually drove myself. They offered to take me, but I didn't want to deal with giving birth, worrying about getting my car back, and trying to facilitate getting to the hospital, not to mention taking an ambulance that we know many times is not covered by insurance. So I was just trying to think, what's the fastest way for me to get to the hospital safely? Now, I get to the hospital, I go up to the OBGYN. They told them I was coming. I delivered at Strong Hospital in Rochester. And once I got there, they knew what was going on from my doctor, but I also explained what was going on. And they did 3 more ultrasounds, like 3 different positions, a couple different monitors. And the delivery doctor came in that was going to be at least getting us started because of the shifts. I ended up changing doctors throughout the shift. But my husband met me there. And I think it was my husband's aunt and I think my mom. It's kind of a blur, so if I don't mention you, I'm sorry. I know there were a couple people that stayed home with our other kids to help out while Jessie met me. So we get to the hospital, and they confirmed that she had passed. And I had 2 options for this, and this is something that I'm not very vocal about on here, but I do want to make sure people are aware of the importance of abortion health care. So my options were to have a C-section, and I was told with that I was not allowed to see Darcy after. I think because of the condition and how they have to get the baby out, it's not a pleasant thing where none of it is pleasant, but if you give birth naturally, things are a little bit more cohesive and you're able to see things and not be as traumatized as if you were having a C-section and having the baby taken out. So I chose to have the birth vaginally, and for me, when I asked them like, how does this work, it was the abortion pill. So they were able to insert the abortion pill, internally, and they said I could go home with it or I could stay at the hospital. And I was so scared, I didn't want to leave the hospital, and I also didn't want to go home and see my girls with my girl that was gone still with me. So I was really struggling with that. So I chose to stay in the hospital. So for me, looking back on it and now seeing what other women have experienced with lack of access to abortion health care, makes me very grateful for the state and the doctors that were there to help me. And it also, having that type of birth, even though that's not how I wanted to give birth to Darcy, having that option allowed me to see her afterward, and we were able to hold her and take pictures with her. And we share some pictures online, but there are some pictures we don't share because it may be a little graphic for people. but having that option means the world to me. And it also makes me hope in the future that people that may not understand or have, religious beliefs against abortion can understand and be more open-minded to what happens to someone like me who, whether it's somebody that is having a child with a committed husband in a family, or is somebody who wasn't expecting to get pregnant or their birth control failed. That option should be there for anybody that needs it. So I was very grateful that that medication was available because it allowed me to have time with her afterward. Had I had the C-section, that would not have been an option. So I gave birth to her. I was in labor for about, I think, 11 to 13 hours. It's been a long time, so it's hard to remember, but I know it was around that time. Afterward, and one of the nurses was able to take pictures for us. And if you guys have, it wasn't through this organization, but if you ever need something for someone like that, there's an organization called Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep, and they offer free photography for families experiencing a loss. So I will try to tag them in the comments also. So after the labor, gave birth, and we were able to spend about 10 to 12 hours with her before we decided to go home. I didn't want to leave, but obviously you can't just stay in the hospital if, they did give us enough time to stay with her for that day. I wish I could have stayed longer, but it just wasn't feasible. So after that, we were sent home with a small box with a bunch of different information. We found a support group information in there. I think I also found the Cooper Project information in there. There was a lot of information given to parents when they left the hospital, which is amazing because there are a lot of people that don't get that depending on where they give birth or where they, have their health care taken place. So in the weeks to follow, it was kind of a blur. It was also very, very difficult for about a month for me to get up and get out of bed, to the point where my husband was pulling me out of bed and hugging me to get me out of bed. So having that kind of experience completely changes your outlook on life. It can be in a very negative way, and it can be in a very positive way. There's nothing positive about child loss. There's just not. But trying really hard not to get emotional. So after about a month, my husband and I decided to, it may not have even been a full month, we decided to have an organization called the Darcy Project. And at that time, I was still staying home full-time with the kids, and I really just needed some kind of outlet to help my grief leave my body. So after we created the Darcy Project, we have been able to host an annual walk, and that happens in October every year in honor of International Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, and we usually have it at a local park. And my hope is that there was one already established here because we weren't expecting to take on something like that. But when I did a little bit of research, the closest one was Cheektowaga, New York, which is 1 to 2 hours away. And I'm like, well, that means there's nothing close by for families in Rochester or Buffalo or Syracuse. Nothing for people that may not be able to travel if they have young children like we do, or infants, or an elderly parent, or pets, where you can't just go for a day. Sometimes it's not possible. So we decided to host a walk every year. We have been very grateful to people that have come out for that walk every year because we really didn't think it was going to be what it is now when it started. And really the goal was just to, I think really it was more for me and my husband to do something productive and positive so that we don't just dwell on the negative side of grief, which is totally allowed, but you can really get into a bad headspace and not want to get out of bed sometimes when you're dealing with that. So having it every October, in honor of that month, we've had the walk that has had about 30 people, and then we've had walks that have 200 people. So even though this was something that really wasn't necessarily planned when we experienced our loss initially, we are so grateful for the amount of families we've been able to reach since then. It's definitely opened up our eyes too to the other side of parenting that we hope more people don't have to experience, and we hope stillbirth and miscarriages and infant loss stop completely, but we know that that's not how biology and the world works. But we do want to say thank you to everyone who has come out, and we just send you guys love if you have experienced a loss, or even if you've never been to our walk, or if you're in a different country watching this. It's something that has been, a very positive outlet for my husband and I, but we're very glad that we're able to reach that many people. And we're always grateful. Wegmans has been a sponsor for a while. Usually they give us a gift card and we're able to purchase the snacks and the drinks and, make the cost of the event a little bit less for us. So we are always grateful to Wegmans for willing to sponsor us. And then we've had other little sponsors over the years. We've had a bakery, a pet sitting service. So it's been nice to have local sponsors that will help us out. And if you guys are interested in sponsoring the event, you're welcome to comment below or DM us. The first walk that we had, I had a woman come up to me and my husband, and she had experienced, this was back in 2017, she had experienced a loss 38 years prior to that. And she actually had 6 miscarriages, and she had 1 living daughter. And she said that at that walk, it was the first time she had talked about it since it happened. So that just, I think I cried instantly when she told me that, because there's such a stigma around pregnancy and infant loss, and even abortion health care, which is needed for families who have a baby that passed in utero like we did. That is something that is very needed for women that are experiencing that to stay safe and be able to get the health care that they need. Because as much as people want to believe that every pregnancy and every child is coming into this world with sunshine and rainbows, it doesn't always happen that way. And sometimes people need access to that type of health care. So I'm hoping that people will listen to this message and understand the importance of having access to that type of health care. Now that we're a few years out from our experience, it's made us more grateful for our children that are here. We have 3 older girls, and Darcy would be the youngest. She'd be 9 this coming weekend. But it also makes us slow down a little bit sometimes and just appreciate the milestones that our older girls are achieving now. Even though their sister's not here, even my husband, we will struggle with that until the day we die, because it's just part of child loss. Even when you're years out, things trigger you, and that's kind of been happening this year with, different things going on in our life. But it's something that I hope that we never had to experience, but I am grateful that it has turned us into a positive outlet for people, and help them understand, and shared resources that they know that they're not alone, and that there are other families experiencing this. And something else I've wanted to say for a long time, but I haven't figured out really how to put it into words, is if you are expecting and something feels off or something doesn't feel right, it is 100% okay to go see a doctor. Usually your gut feeling is not wrong. And, even when I was feeling something off, like a week after our 20-week ultrasound, let's say, my gut was telling me something wasn't right. And I just kind of brushed it off thinking, oh yeah, everything's been fine up to this point. There really is no safety time in pregnancy, as much as they say the 12-week mark is the magic mark. That there may be some truth to that, but I just want to stress how important it is for women to trust their bodies, or pregnant people to trust their bodies, because usually your gut feeling is not wrong, and if you feel that something is not right in your own body, you need to trust that. And also, if one doctor is kind of brushing it off, seek another doctor, try to get a second opinion, third opinion, until you get the reassurance and you know that things are safe, or maybe things are not going well in the pregnancy. Because I think it would also help prevent trauma happening later on if and when something may happen in a pregnancy. We did have some testing after Darcy was born, and the ultimate reason she ended up not making it was there was something wrong with the umbilical cord connecting from her to the placenta that kind of caused things not to go as smoothly as they were supposed to. And they think that was also probably why I was feeling so tired, because my body was trying really hard to make the pregnancy work, even though from the beginning, when the umbilical cord is attaching, something wasn't right from the beginning, which is probably why I felt so bad during the whole pregnancy. So it was nice to have some type of closure, even though my ending would have been, she would have been here and we'd never be having this conversation. But I was glad to get some type of closure. It was a couple weeks after I had her, and they gave us some information along with some testing. But yeah, so I just wanted to share my story and my husband's story about how the Darcy Project began, and I hope that this reaches somebody that maybe wants to talk about their story but is scared to, or feels like they can't. If you don't know where to start and you need someone to talk to, you can always talk to a mental health professional. You can always just ask your OBGYN. They have resources for grief counselors, and I will also tag some other organizations in the comments below, like Star Legacy Foundation and a couple others that have a lot of resources for people that have experienced loss. And I am so grateful for you guys watching this. I know this is a longer video. It's not something I normally put on here, but I did want to share our story from the beginning and just kind of get that out, because I've had it in my head for a really long time. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you later.